GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry and this is Dewbs & Co. According to a poll today, 68% of people think that Britain is broken and heading in the wrong direction. Are you among that 68%? If so, can anything change your mind? What would it take? And we now have this year's tax summary so we can see how much tax the likes of Keir Starmer, for example, has paid. Are you somebody who thinks that this information should be public? If so, do tell me why. And with prison officers almost being murdered a few days ago and Islamist gangs seemingly ruling the roost in jails, while, by the way, we barely even seem able to give the officers the stab-proof vests that they require. I'm asking a simple question. Would you ever be a police officer? And how do you think we fix the problems in our jails? Well, we've got all of that and a lot more alongside me tonight. Alex Dean, the political consultant, and Matt Torbett, the former Labour advisor. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live to Sophia for your latest news headlines.
Michelle, thank you. It's just gone 6 o'clock. These are your headlines. The Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, has said any Chinese bid for British steel would be looked at in a different way after the government was forced to seize control from Xingji. It comes as 2 emergency shipments of raw materials have arrived in the UK to stop British Steel's blast furnaces from going cold. Iron ore and coking coal from the US are being unloaded in Immingham and rushed to the Scunthorpe plant, enough to keep it running for weeks. Ministers say the company had planned to shut the furnaces and sell off vital stock. Steelworkers have called the delivery a huge relief and a turning point for the site's future. But the industry minister, Sarah Jones, said this morning that the government was not ruling out another Chinese owner for British Steel. The US Press Secretary, Caroline Leavitt, is holding a briefing in the next few minutes after US Vice President J.D. Vance said there's a good chance of a trade deal with the UK. Stock markets have been reeling since Donald Trump announced 10% tariffs on nearly all imports, including from close allies like the UK and France. But signs of recovery emerged this week as the White House insists the tariffs are a long-term play to cut trade deficits. UK government sources say talks with the US are progressing well, with a potential deal expected to go beyond just tariffs. Vance told Unheard the UK is a stronger prospect than Germany, thanks to a more reciprocal relationship. In other news, today is a new record for the number of illegal migrant crossings in a single day this year, smashing a record that was only a few days old. GBNews figures show around 700 migrants arrived in UK waters today, surpassing the previous one-day record of 656 migrant arrivals. The latest crossings take the number of small boat migrants who've made the journey this year to nearly 9,000. Elsewhere, a man has pleaded guilty to murdering his partner and neighbour on Christmas Day. Jaswell Brown stabbed 38-year-old Joanne Pearson and 24-year-old Tahona Grant at a block of flats in Santa Cruz Avenue in Milton Keynes. 49-year-old Brown also admitted attempting to murder 29-year-old Bradley Latter and a teenage boy during the same attack. He is due to be sentenced on the 22nd of May. And the Birmingham bin strikes are set to continue after workers overwhelmingly rejected the council's latest pay offer. Unite says the deal fails to address potential pay cuts of up to £8,000 and could impact hundreds of workers. Military planners have now been called in, with 11,000 tonnes of rubbish already cleared from the streets. But public health fears are growing, with dead animals found in parks and some residents reporting rat infestations. The council says its offer was fair and its door remains open. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Michelle.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that, Sophia. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. Till 7. Alex Dean, the political consultant, and Matthew Talbot, the former Labour advisor, alongside me. Evening, gents.
Good evening to you.
You're very welcome. You are also very welcome at home tonight. What's on your mind? Join the conversation all the usual ways. Email me at gbviews@gbnews.com. Go to the website gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me very soon. You might even be able to get hold of me on Liz Truss's new social media site. I'll watch that one with interest. Anyway, look, we keep talking, don't we, about records being smashed. Today, another one, this time the number of crossings of small boats. It beat the record so far in 2025. Let's cross live to our Home and Security editor, Mark White. Good evening to you, Mark. What's the latest?
Well, we can confirm that another small boat has now made the line into UK waters, and that was reported to be carrying around 70 migrants on board. So at Dover Harbour today, our producer counted 669 arrivals into Dover Harbour, eclipsing the 656 who arrived just on Saturday in a one-day record for the year. But now we're going to be well over 700 for the day. And clearly, from the standpoint of the government, it makes grim reading in terms of this smash the gangs policy, which is a law enforcement policy alone without a deterrent. And there are many commentators who believe you can't do it only on law enforcement alone, that you need a sort of a deterrent as well. But of course, we know Keir Starmer scrapped the Rwanda policy of the previous Conservative government on his first day in office. It was a gimmick, he said. What you're looking at now are pictures shot by our producer Chris on the cliff top there at Dover, showing one of the Border Force vessels that came in today. We've also got some video we want to show you that was shot on a migrant boat by one of the migrants themselves. They're listening to the audio, the migrant speaking in Arabic, saying "Inshallah," clearly good luck, God willing, for the journey across. Well, they made it, as did now 700 plus today in the English Channel. And in terms of what that might cost the taxpayer, we know the average cost of a hotel is £145 a night. So you multiply that by 700 and you're over £100,000 for one night's accommodation. Now, they won't stay in hotel accommodation forever. It's normally a few weeks, maybe a month or two at most, before they go on to local authority accommodation. But even there, the cost for housing a migrant, whether it's in social housing or whether it's in hotels, over the course of a year, the average cost is £41,000. So doing the maths for you again, that's 28 million added to the annual bill for these asylum seekers, 700 plus, who've come across today.
You see, you, Mark White, you're almost like a mind reader. We're so in tune right now because that is literally what I was going to ask you. My viewers, of course, they are being squeezed. Massively high taxes now, lost their winter fuel allowance if they're pensioners, so on and so forth. When we hear that just today, ladies and gents, £28 million there or thereabouts, now we will be charged out of our taxpayers' cash just for a single day's arrivals. Mark White, people will not be, I mean, they'll be furious, obviously, but they won't even be able to fathom, why has this not been declared a national emergency? People, a couple of days ago, were very upset at the potential of us absorbing a £700,000 a day loss when it came to British Steel.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, it is a national emergency, I think, in all but name, in terms of the way in which the authorities have to respond to this every time there is good weather. But perhaps in terms of a national emergency approach, there needs to be a rethink of what they do in terms of their policy towards asylum seekers towards these migrants coming across and then claiming asylum here. The previous government, of course, declared them all illegals and wouldn't entertain their processing in the asylum system. But of course, that then led to a huge backlog that continued to grow. They were pinning their hopes on the Rwanda scheme as being the deterrent. But I think there's no doubt probably that Labour are going to have to look at some kind of deterrent down the road, because it's just not working, the law enforcement approach alone. OK, it's 9 months now of this approach. They've been showing us time after time law enforcement activity, arrests of suspected people smugglers and supply lines that have been disrupted. But every time we get a good day, we get record numbers coming across. So it's showing you that even despite their law enforcement approach, it's not making any kind of discernible difference on the ground.
Well, Mark White, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on that. Matthew Talbot, I think this is an absolute disgrace. I think it's sickening, really, when we hear the amount that people have been squeezed when it comes to financially this country. And then we hear from Mark White there that as a roundabout estimate, just today, there or thereabouts 700 people will end up costing the taxpayers, the viewers, nearly £28 million per annum. I mean, I think that is so disgraceful. At what point will the Labour government actually sit there and go, do you know what, our strategy, our three-little-word mantra is not enough?
It'll probably be too late. I don't think.
What are they waiting for?
Good question, to be honest with you.
What do you think the answer is?
Well, my position, I will no doubt be asked about this for the next 4 years, and the Labour Party will not do it, and therefore my position won't change. I have no issue with people wishing to come here legally and make businesses, earn a living, employ people, whatever. I also believe in the moral cause of if you are genuinely fleeing persecution and you have relatives or whatever here, therefore you have a legal claim to asylum due to genuine persecution, great. At the moment, with the system that we've got, the system is broken and we cannot differentiate between the two. And at the moment, because of the 51 Convention, which we drafted all them years ago, we cannot... when these people are throwing their passports in the channel, we can't differentiate. So what you've got is economic migrants piggybacking on the back of potentially people who are genuinely fleeing persecution and not paying their own way. We've got to reform the whole system, not smash the gang, stop the boats.
Yeah. First of all, these are the people we know about, and you won't always know all that come even on one day, so the number may be higher. Secondly, I was trying to visualise, what does 650 people look like? What does it mean for a country? 700 people. Circa 650 soldiers in a regiment. And we've got, what, 18,
really?
19 regiments left in the UK now, in the British Army. So that's one regiment that arrived today. Today alone. And they will, by the way, overwhelmingly be fighting-age males. Right? For all that we get told about the cases that are concerned and the sob stories that are concerned, funnily enough, they're almost all young men. And so we've had a regiment's worth of people come today. The Blair government received advice when it was in office that we should ignore the European Convention on Human Rights. And by the time they got round to prosecuting us, the government would have had the benefit of being known to protect our borders, and who knows, we might have won our case or defended ourselves appropriately, or even have redrafted the convention. But they didn't do it, and of course the Tories didn't either. It's a failure on both sides of the aisle. But the people we're talking about here have paid people smugglers thousands of pounds.
Of course
and
they
cost
have.
many safe countries to do it. If you come to this country in those methods, you should, by definition, not be eligible for asylum or for refugee status, because you are not a genuine refugee and you are not a genuine asylum seeker.
I mean, I genuinely cannot get my head around why there is not the political will. One of my viewers yesterday, I forget your name, apologies, he got in touch and he pointed out, Michelle, when it came to British Steel, we saw what could be achieved in a single day in Parliament. When there was a political will, you get everyone back around the table, you sit there and you say, you know what, this issue is getting resolved today, no ifs, buts or maybes, birth chambers sorted in the space of a day. Why is there not the political will on this issue? I cannot get my head around it.
I think the difference with British Steel is it seemed everybody was of the opinion that that's what needed to happen. And at the moment, the difference of opinion within different political parties will mean that there isn't an agreement, which means you could get it done in a day.
Oh, come off. Are you telling me there's any political... Maybe there is. Are you out there that look at this? Maybe you look at these small Burt crossings and you sit there and go, do you know what? This is all right, actually. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad. Is there any political party, any political individual? I don't know. John McDonnell, what does he think to it? Does even he think it's all right? Jeremy Corbyn, where are them lot?
I can't speak for John or Jeremy. I can speak for myself and I could speak for what I think the Labour Party should do. I think fundamentally, even from a political strategy point of view, you cannot be trusted to be believed that your strategy of smash the gangs is working if people turn on their TVs and see this every single day.
If this is smashing the gangs, I'd hate to see a laissez-faire approach. Look, the reason that the left of the Labour Party is divided between a kind of let everything happen, let everyone in kind of academics type of Labour and the working class Labourites who are far more robust on this is that it's their traditional working class vote that is so exercised by it. It's those people that lose out from what the state can provide. It's not the wealthy, moneyed end of either political party that suffers from this sort of thing. The pressure on our national services, the pressure on public services, the pressure on housing, the pressure on GPs and so forth applies most of all to the poorest in society, and that's the vote that traditionally Labour cared about. And it's in part because they've shifted their tactics that they care less.
The words suicidal empathy spring to my mind. I think that this is a monumental act of self-harm. I cannot fathom why it has not been taken seriously by our politicians. What do you think to it? Get in touch at home. So much, ladies and gents, that we need to discuss. I'll bring you into the conversation after the break. Also, we'll have a little peek into a White House press conference that's about to happen. And we just need to talk about so much more broken Britain. Apparently, 68% of you think this country is broken. Wonder why that might be. See you in 2.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
A toddler has been kicked out of nursery for being transphobic.
This is political correctness gone mad. And it's clearly, my take, a projection of the people who are running the school.
Is it not a projection on the parents of the child?
For me, it is a school trying to be more Welsh than Cardiff.
Yeah.
It tries just going over the top.
It's hard to believe, though, isn't it, Jennifer?
It is, and it's not an isolated incident. The same statistics from the Department for Education show that 178 primary school children across the state sector were excluded in 22-23 for supposed homophobia or transphobia. And as you're both saying, I don't think it's possible for a toddler or a young child to be homophobic. Obviously, we don't want anyone to have to experience homophobia, but this does seem an extreme reaction to exclude a child.
But I look back at things, you know, when I was young, when I was at primary school, and it would be common to say, oh, Chris, you're an old woman playing football. You play football like a girl.
Yeah.
Now, you could never say that today or mean that, but when you were 7 or 8 or whatever it is, that was accepted. Sure. You know, that's the way it was, because girls didn't play football.
Yeah, sure. Or when I was growing up, of course, you know, a nice little white family, the little child might go, oh, look, that guy's black. Mm-hmm. Oh, look, he's a dark. Oh, they used to say darky back in the day, you know. So, yeah, of course, the young child is going to be unfiltered, and what he or she sees in their mind comes out of their mouth. Parents are sort of like pulling, no, you don't say that.
And it may come out in an unfiltered way or an inquisitive way.
But I think the kids are hearing it at home.
Well, yeah, or just regurgitating what they're hearing at home.
The People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day.
Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs and Co. Alex Dean, Matthew Talbot alongside me. Unsurprising, lots of you are getting in touch about that first topic. The birds, the gangs are not being smashed, ladies and gents. I would actually be embarrassed me if I was an elected politician and someone was trying to get me to stand in front of a podium with smash the gangs underneath it. I actually think that I wouldn't do that because I would feel so mortified and ashamed actually to be standing in front of those slogans, knowing full well that actually the only thing I am smashing are previous asylum numbers and records. I just wouldn't do it. I'd say no. Anyway, look, one of my viewers is getting in touch. Adrian, you echo so many of the other comments that I've got saying, Michelle, all of these illegal migrants are fleeing a safe country, France. Please, can everyone stop saying they are fleeing persecution? They are not. They are fleeing Calais.
Spot on.
We had this conversation the other day. I was asking someone, I can't remember who it was now. Mike Tapp. It was Mike Tapp, Labour MP. How come when you're in Calais, apparently like tents and camps and all the rest of it, that's fine. That's all absolutely fine. But then when you've crossed that channel, you don't even cross it, you get halfway and you get picked up. But anyway, you then get 4-star hotels.
Well, not actually, Calais itself is quite nice. I mean, what's so wrong with France that you don't claim asylum there? Of course, the people who oppose the discussion we're having on this panel say, well, that doesn't matter because the law says that it's OK to apply to a third safe nation. You don't have to apply to the first one you come to. They never seem to be able to explain why. They then go on to talk about preference or language or family connections, things that are not actually to do with dire need. And they ignore entirely the logic that suggests that the point of the refugee or asylum system is to help you get out of dire need, not to assist your preference or your language abilities or where you might earn more. Those are factors that apply to economic migrants.
Well, given that conversation, it might not surprise you then to know a poll was conducted, results out today, saying that 68% of people think that Britain is broken. They're not happy with the direction of travel. Did that high number surprise you?
No. I put myself in the camp of the 68%.
Do you?
Yeah, I think, and I think it's been a long erosion of the social contract, maybe over the last 40, 50 years. I think when my parents were young, they were setting out into their journey in life, you would have the belief that if you played by the rules, you could get on in life. So you'd go to work, you'd be able to get a mortgage, houses were around, it wasn't a case of it being ridiculous, levels of rent weren't as bad as they were now, levels of inequality weren't quite as bad as they were now. And you could go on a couple of holidays a year. You know, you could have a family, you might have to have a little think about it, but you could afford to have a family, and you tend to die in dignity. My mum and dad were a cleaner and a postie. You won't get a mortgage on those sort of salaries now. And I think because of that, younger people are struggling to get on in life, older people are dying not in dignity. Rental market, particularly in London and elsewhere, is ridiculous and through the roof. People of my generation, you know, I gave up trying to own a house years ago. I think, you know, if my mum and dad managed to leave something behind, great. If not, you know.
And how does that make you feel? That you know, you're saying, actually, I've had to come to terms with the fact I just probably won't be able to get my own house. How does that make you feel?
I suppose despondent, but I think I've always been one of them. You've just got to get on with it. There's not a lot I can do. And you just have to hope in a way that if you haven't got the money, the state will be there at the end of your life. But as it stands, you know, I sort of think, well, we probably won't get a pension either, those of us that are millennials and whatnot. I think that'll be scrapped. It's depressing. It's totally depressing. You can see why people feel fed up. They want to see alternatives. They want to see radical change. And over the years, we've had governments sort of tinker around the edges and not produce the radical change that people might want and to make them, in a way, feel better.
Do you feel better listening to this conversation? Maybe you are an optimist. Maybe you're sitting at home and you actually think, no, Michelle, what you want about? I'm not in that 68%. I think everything's awesome. Tell me why. Alex?
I don't think everything is awesome, but I don't think Britain is broken. I think this country still has a decent spine to it, put it the other way around, a spine of decency to it. I think that most people in this country are still law-abiding. I think most people in this country want the best for themselves, their families, their communities, their towns, and most people in society decry the direction we're going in and the level of criminality that we see, and indeed the level of migration, illegal migration that we were just talking about. One of the reasons this result does surprise me, and we must bear in mind it's only one poll, is that so people voted in such significant numbers for the Labour Party only last year, and you would think that if they were asked, are we going in the right direction, having just voted to change the direction of the country, ostensibly, they might have felt, not in these vast numbers anyway, rather better about our condition.
Do you feel optimistic? Because I'd really like to bring some positivity into the conversation. If you had to pick one thing that you're optimistic about, the direction of travel, what would pop out to your mind?
I've always had hope for the younger generation. They'll be the ones that'll save us, I hope. I think they're much more in tune than I was due to technology, whether that be current affairs, whether that be knowledge of all levels. And I hope they're the ones that sort of decide, you know, we've got to get our act together, really.
I feel optimistic about the new generation coming into the workforce, not only because they resent the tax being taken from them as much as the most embittered Thatcherite, but moreover because they reject the entirety of the woke nonsense that we've had visited upon them by their elders. And all this woke stuff and pretending that you don't know the difference between a man and a woman, politicians not being able to say what a woman is, that's going to become increasingly mum and dad's generation, and then grandmothers and grandfathers' generation, because the generation to come, I think a lot of them, interestingly, the people in their late 20s into the 30s sort of bought into that. People coming to the workforce now, they've just got no time for it. They
really?
Yeah, a lot of.
I think a lot of them. Were you?
I think you'd be more than welcome, and you'd, of course, distinguish yourself in the field. But I think very many of them look at the world, the state of the world, and say to themselves, I'm interested in getting on, I think we have to pay too much tax, and I'm confident about the future. And that's why the Conservative Party does a bit better amongst younger people than people might have expected. And, of course, famously, Farage and Reform do very well amongst the youngest voters, because a rejection of that whole mainstream wokery, it fits both.
There's a really interesting court ruling, actually. The verdicts of that will be coming out tomorrow. If you've been following this for women, Scotland, I've got my beady eye on that one, I can assure you. We'll look at that tomorrow. Very, very quickly, a few seconds. Do we need to know, we've got tax summaries now published for Keir Starmer and the likes, do we need to have this information in the public domain? There's always these calls, isn't there, to release tax returns and stuff like that. What do you think?
It doesn't bother me necessarily whether they do or they don't, but I think at a time where it feels people really hate and distrust politicians, it might go some way into pushing back against the stereotype that they're all on the take, potentially.
Yeah, well, the reason it'll push back against the stereotype is that the sums concerned are so eye-wateringly small. And it's a very unfashionable point, and you can only make it if you're outside of elected politics rather than inside it. But not only do we treat our politicians like dirt, we pay them like dirt as well. Oh. And if you compare out the salaries that we pay our politicians to most Western civilised countries, I mean, sort of Singapore,
Alex Dean, paying someone 94 grand, there or thereabouts a year, is not paying someone like dirt, because if you
Michelle,
think 94
it is
dirt,
not comparable to any other form of responsibility that you expect people to take in the private sector or indeed elsewhere in the public sector. And that's why people who run local councils are on more money than the Prime Minister now. And it's kept that way out of a perverse desire to keep the number low. And therefore you're betting that you might make money afterwards. You're actually incentivising people not to rely on their earnings, and it's the wrong way round.
What do you think? Some of you might actually think that we'll need to be like some of these countries where everyone publishes their tax returns and so forth. We have National Envy Day, don't we, in some countries? I say, don't be so nosy. What's it got to do with you? Anyway, look, coming up after the break, much we need to discuss, ladies and gents. The state of prisons. Would you ever be a prison officer? We've got that coming up and more.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're hoping to get away for the rest of the Easter holidays, I'm afraid it's rather unsettled across the central Mediterranean. Heavy showers, thunderstorms and also some strong winds. Largely dry across Madeira and the rest of the Canary Islands though, particularly after all the heavy rain recently. But as we shift our way eastwards, heavy showers affecting much of the central Mediterranean. These could have hail and also some thunder and some strong winds associated with them too. Largely dry across Greece, and it's turning largely dry for all as we head into Saturday, with temperatures widely in the mid to high teens to low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. Long queues up in County Durham on the A1M. The motorway is partly blocked southbound between the Chester Street and Carver Lexus. There's been a crash if you're heading towards Durham, bear that in mind. On the M1 in Derbyshire, lanes closed on the northbound Exeter Junction 25, the A52 Nottingham Derby exit, where lorry's broken down. I can see it's in the inside lane heading up to the roundabout on that exit slip. The M42 partly blocked southbound 10 to 9 Tamworth to Coles Hill following an accident. And on the Hertfordshire stretch of the M25 down to a single lane anti-clockwise at the A1M, a van's caught fire, causing long queues back to the A10. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date,
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, Michelle Dewberry, Dewbs and Co. Lots to talk about going on in this country, but let's have a sneaky peek what's going on across the pond. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt
arrested a 49-year-old citizen of Guatemala convicted of assault and arson in Prince Williams, Virginia, not far from here. ICE Denver arrested a 36-year-old citizen of Mexico who is registered as a sex offender and has been convicted of sexual assault of a child in Lake County, Colorado. ICE Baltimore arrested a 50-year-old citizen of China convicted of sex trafficking in Bel Air, Maryland. And ICE Boston arrested a 46-year-old citizen of Jamaica convicted of 3 counts of rape of a child and 2 counts of indecent assault and battery of a child under 14 in Boston, Massachusetts. President Trump and our administration will not rest until every single violent, illegal alien is removed from our country. The safety of the American people is too important to settle for anything less. On that note, the Democrat and media outrage over the deportation of Abrego Garcia, an MS-13 El Salvadorian illegal alien criminal who is hiding in Maryland, has been nothing short of despicable. Based on the sensationalism of many of the people in this room, you would think we deported a candidate for Father of the Year. That's because, unfortunately, many in this country care more about this quote-unquote Maryland father, a legal alien MS-13 gang member, than a Maryland mother and an American citizen who was brutally murdered at the hands of a different illegal alien. Of course, I am referring to Rachel Morin. And if you didn't see yesterday, a Maryland jury found illegal alien Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez guilty of murdering Rachel Morin in August of 2023. She was a 37-year-old mother of 5 who was jogging in an otherwise safe community northeast of Baltimore when this monster ambushed, strangled, and beat her to death before stuffing her brutalized body in a tunnel drain. The Morin family finally got justice yesterday, but they will never get Rachel back. Our hearts go out to Rachel's family, her 5 children, and her mother, Patty, who has suffered the unimaginable loss of her daughter. In case you missed it last week, President Trump signed a national security presidential memorandum directing federal agencies administering federal land on the border to make land available to the Defense Department in a new national defense area. This followed the president's Day 1 executive order committing his administration to marshal all available resources and authorities to stop the unprecedented flood of illegal aliens into our country and to obtain complete operational control of the borders of the United States of America. Once again, the president is fulfilling another key promise. This new national defense area spans more than 170 miles across our border in New Mexico. But in the coming weeks, this administration will add more than 90 miles in the state of Texas. This national defense area will enhance our ability to detect, interdict, and prosecute the illegal aliens, criminal gangs, and terrorists who were able to invade our country without consequence for the past 4 years under the Biden administration. It will also bolster our defenses against fentanyl and other dangerous narcotics that have been poisoning our communities. With all of this work being done to make America great again, we continue to see a positive response from the American public. A brand new poll published from the Daily Mail and JL Partners this morning found that President Trump's approval rating is at an all-time high. That's because the president is working tirelessly to keep his promises to the American people, as I just saw him doing today in the Oval Office. We have a reporter in our new media seat today, Matthew Foldy. I like your boots, Matt, who is the editor-in-chief of the Washington Reporter. Washington Reporter is a new, fast-growing outlet that breaks stories about legislation and interviews leaders in Congress and across the administration. The publication's readership includes the highest levels of business and government. And with that, please kick us off, Matt.
And we've interviewed you as well. So, Caroline, thanks so much for having me here on behalf of our readership and the millions of Americans who I think appreciate what you're doing with.
Well, there you go. Can I have a taxi for 1, please? Michelle Dewberry, destination over to America. I wouldn't mind a little bit of that. What do you think? That is the White House press secretary there. That press conference continues. And if you want to carry on watching and listening to that conversation as it happens, yes, you can, ladies and gents. You can do both. You can watch me and you can watch her. What a treat. Get your telephone out, scan that QR code. It'll take you to a place called GBN2, which you can also find on YouTube. So you can follow proceedings live on your telephone, your iPad, or whatever you want, frankly. I'm sure there'll be some interesting things said, but also there's very interesting things that need to be said here in Britain as well. So let's carry on, shall we, talking about that QR code there on your screen. I liked it. Matt Tobbit, I like that. I like that lady. I like the attitude that they have in America when it comes to dangerous people. They focus on keeping the American population safe. They don't do these press conferences saying, oh, do you know what, there's this fella and he's raped someone and we was trying to deport him, but he might suffer with his mental health if he gets sent back. He might have a bit of depression. He might have a bit of alcoholism. So guess what, ladies and gents, he stays in this country. No. They have none of it. They say, you know what, if you are one of these violent gang members, you're gone. There's that dispute about that man, as she was saying there, about whether or not what his background is. She's having none of that.
I mean, yeah, I agree. If that was the case, if you're a gang member, they want to do what they want with them, they can. But why are they doing it to people that aren't gang members? I actually thought it was interesting that...
she's disputing that. She's saying essentially she thinks he is.
She also said anyone would think he was Father of the Year. He's worked for 15 years in America. checked in with ICE every week. There's never been a discrepancy, and cares for his 5-year-old son who has autism and a hearing defect. He can't communicate verbally. They've not produced a iota of evidence, and the Supreme Court filing itself says he has no affiliation with Trendy Aragua, the gang that he's supposed to have done. He was picked up because he was wearing a Chicago Bulls cap. It's really, fascistic, actually, without sounding melodramatic. And for him to be discussing with the El Salvador president yesterday, you need to build more prisons, we're going to send the homegrown ones over. Are we just going to start sending citizens of each country to far-flung countries to prison now? Is that what America does? Is that what we're proud of?
Well, his message is, we don't want the wrong uns. And it seems to be, wherever you're born, actually, if you're a wrong un, get out. Many people would cheer that, you know.
Because many people can't contest the popularity of the agenda of this White House, which is to deport foreign criminals, they select the best possible example, an individual whose case might seem to demonstrate the system has gone wrong. And on one view, the administration might be well advised to make a concession. Say, do you know what? When you're doing as much as this, when you're trying to deport as many people as this, we will make a mistake. Got the wrong guy. There we are. Back you come, don't worry about it. Now, the other 2 million, out you go. And that, I think, if it turns out this is as innocent a chap as Matt's suggesting, they are digging in a way that won't be helpful for them. But let's back up and talk about the broader picture. Most Western countries, looking at how you deal with people who've committed crimes, have an opportunity to think about deterrence, rehabilitation, punishment and protection of the public. And almost every Western country has failed of late to emphasise the last one, protection of the public, which is why we've seen, in this country, sentencing's been going up, but in lots of countries it hasn't been, and indeed, furthermore, we've been refusing to deport people for some of the most spurious reasons. Well, here in the United States, you can see they have unambiguously decided to emphasise the importance of protection of the public, and I tell you what, whatever people think about the individual examples they can pick holes in, it'll be a wildly popular policy.
It most certainly will be. You know, meanwhile, because I can't help myself, ladies and gents, I do sit there now and do a lot of compare and contrast. And of course, Donald Trump is not right on everything he's saying or doing. We discuss that frequently at length. But when it comes to law and order, when it comes to prioritising the citizens of your country and particularly their safety, I'm telling you, many people watching this programme will be sitting there going, this is what we want to hear from our politicians. What have we got in the UK? We've got a scenario where you've essentially got Islamist, extremist gang members ruling the roost in prisons. You've got a situation, Matt, where you've got prison officers desperately asking for what I would say basics like stab-proof vests. Do they get them as standard? No, they don't. Appalling.
Yeah, they shouldn't. Listen, I have been talking about this sort of stuff for a long time, as it's my area of interest. We are also asking prison officers to work till the age of 68 to get their pensions. Would you want a 70-year-old man or woman attempting to protect prisoners?
Well, there you go. That is the million-dollar question, because I want to have this conversation properly, so I'm going to do so after the break. This is your assignment during the break. Tell me, would you be a prison officer? Are you a prison officer? And if so, how do you think you're treated? Conversation continues in 2.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Low pressure really dominating, an unsettled outlook. Outbreaks of heavy rain over the next few days, some strong winds at times too. And those strong winds developing as we go through this evening and overnight as this area of low pressure moves in from the south, bringing some heavy rain to western parts in particular as well. Parts of Wales, the West Country, have a yellow warning from the Met Office out through the night into Wednesday morning. The heavy rain then transferring into parts of Northern Ireland during the early hours. Elsewhere, generally quite cloudy with outbreaks of rain. Temperatures overnight generally holding up around 6 or 7 degrees due to the cloud. The winds picking up too, gales developing through the Irish Sea along southern coasts, and these strong winds spreading inland as we go through the day. Let's look at the details for Wednesday morning, and actually across northern Scotland it's a bright start for some of us, some sunny spells here, but the rest of Scotland cloudy, some patchy rain, heavy rain across Northern Ireland. There could be some localised flooding issues first thing here. The rest of England generally cloudy, and that heavy rain extending into western parts of England and Wales as well. Just some brighter skies starting to come into southern counties first thing Wednesday morning, and this sunshine slowly spreads a little further north through the day as the area of low pressure just tends to very slowly push its way northwards. So some parts of Wales, northern England, Northern Ireland, southern Scotland will have a wet day, some strong winds too, and it will feel quite cold. Temperatures struggling to get into the double figures here. Breezy across the rest of England and Wales, but sunny spells developing and temperatures around 17 Celsius. For Thursday, the remnants of that low pressure start pulling away and it becomes a brighter day for most with sunny spells, scattered showers. Some of the showers can be heavy at times, but some places will avoid these and stay dry all day, and temperatures around the mid-teens. It stays unsettled as we head towards the Easter weekend. Further rain at times, temperatures generally around average.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, how are you? Michelle Dewberry, Dewbs and Curtal 7, Alex Dean and Matthew Torbett alongside me. I ordered myself a taxi to the US before the break. Lots of you got in touch saying, can I get in that taxi and go with you? There were lots of people wanting to come the other way though, weren't they? Look, prison officers, would you ever be one? Let's have a little reminder as Robert Jenrick what he was saying when it comes to the state of our prisons.
He was actually in a so-called separation unit, which is an area of the prison that is designed to stop extremists from causing difficulties. And there's a broader issue here, which is about Islamist extremism within our prisons. There is mounting evidence that Islamic organisations, there's one called the Brotherhood, which forcibly converts people within our prisons, are ruling the roost in our jails, that they are dictating to governors how the jails operate. They are operating quasi-Sharia courts within prisons, and they are controlling them with floggings and beatings. And this has got to end.
I mean, one of my viewers has just got in touch as well and just told me that he is a prison officer. He has been for many years, David, and he says, I'd talk to you about the state of prisons. Good, let's have that conversation one of these days. What do you think to some of what Robert Jenrick is saying?
I think he's spot on. Now, for professional reasons as a lawyer, I've been in quite a few prisons. And indeed, I was in one when I was on the segregated wing, entirely safe, right? But I was in one when it was shut down because there was some serious disorder. And our prison officers are very brave individuals who undertake their work at risk to more... If we get something wrong on the show, it's at risk to our reputation and standing. They are operating at risk to more than their standing, and I really admire them. It's one of the reasons, by the way, I didn't think they should... People in the custody suites or in custody units at prisons, in courts, should be required to drag people into the witness box, into the defendant's box when they didn't want to. Because in the end, you're asking people to undertake risk in a confined space with somebody who's about to go down for life and has got nothing to lose. I really admire what they do. We don't, I think, use enough segregation and isolation in the prison systems as a punishment. But I also think we've got the prison estate management wrong. I think prison is far too lax. Why have prisons got televisions for people all the time? Why have you got all manner of reasons for visits and relaxation and entertainment? I'm all for education in prison, and I'm all for being able to, of course, to be able to speak to your legal representatives and your family from time to time. Other than that, I think you should spend most of the time on your own. And if you did that, and if it really meant that kind of harrowing experience people would want to avoid, then prison sentences could be shorter and still have a real impact. Instead, people are really are, as the expression went, marking time.
Keith, a viewer, makes the point. He says, Michelle, at the end of the day, when you've got prisons that refer to prisoners as residents, that tells you a lot about the direction of travel. I think he makes a good point, you know. What do you think?
I can see both sides. I agree in the sense of, you know, the focus of prison should be, first of all, punishment. That's the whole point of it. Second of all, it's rehabilitation. It's incredibly costly. Reoffending is incredibly costly to the taxpayer, to the tune of nearly £20 billion a year now, which tells me prison doesn't currently work. And what prison, I think, should aim to do is to send people away, be punished, think about what they've done, get them to come out better people on the other side. At the moment, you have prisoners, and, you know, it's not for me to stick up for prisoners, but if you're in a cell 23 and a half hours a day, you're not going to come out a better person and ready to get on with the next bit of your life. People like the awful human being that's been involved attacking prison officers recently, the Manchester Bombers' brother, totally, you know, people like that, I think, are beyond help and assistance. And I think there's part of our prisons that have always been this way. You've always had people that have ran wings, whether that be gangsters, whether that be people well involved with certain people.
So when you look at people like this fella, this scumbag on the screen now, so the guy involved with the Manchester Arena terrorist attack, does that, I mean, because I look at him and it really, I don't need to rethink my position on the death penalty because I already think that we should have had a referendum on it already. But when you look at people like him, he's very unlikely at all to change his thought process. He's very unlikely at all to be de-radicalised.
But he may radicalise someone else.
Well, not if he was put to death penalty, one.
Well, I don't believe in the death penalty at all for anything, but I don't think the state should take a role in killing people. Also, my view when it comes to the end of life, by the way, but different topic. On this, though, when I talk about segregation, I don't just mean from the general population. I mean Islamists should be separated from one another. They shouldn't be able to, you know, if we put them all in one prison and they built a kind of new school of radicalisation, it would be bad. We had a researcher look into this issue in 2016, and Ian Aitchison thought that jail bosses effectively have been appeasing these groups because they're afraid to be called racist. Well, those days have got to go. One of the officers that was responding to him in his research just talked matter-of-factly about the idea they would just, one of these days, one of their colleagues would be taken prisoner and beheaded in prison. Now, is that what it's going to have to take before we stop this kind of activity? Because, you know, it's not that big a jump from someone having life-changing injuries from having burning oil thrown on them to that.
But, I mean, we even talk about things like burning. And, by the way, the unit that this guy was in, that particular fella, it housed less than 10 inmates anyway, so it was already quite restrictive in terms of the volume of people. But what parallel universe, like what planet are you on when you look at these dangerous people and think to yourself, I'm going to let them get a job in a kitchen?
They shouldn't have access to kitchens is a basic point. But the point about anyone like look, we've had segregation in prisons for a long time. We've had it for former police officers who go to prison for their own protection. We've had it for paedophiles who might otherwise wind up being killed by their fellow inmates, and we've had it for people like this. But the point I'm trying to make is, when he goes out like this, slashes at officers and pours hot oil over them, they don't live because he's decided that's how far he's going to go. That just happens to be as far as he could get before he was stopped. What his intention is to go as far as he can and end their lives. At that point, I'm afraid, no kitchen, no television. You're inside in isolation until you die.
I wouldn't have even given him the kitchen or any of that in the first place. I do believe that we should have a referendum on the death penalty. I do not understand what is the point on keeping people who are just the vilest of the vilest of the vilest people who wish us harm as a nation or as individuals. What are you sitting in prison to do? What is the purpose of that? I can't get my head around it. What do you think about us failing these? I think it's awful not giving the prison officers the stab vests, for example, that they've been requesting for many years. What's the matter with us?
Good question. Whether it's costs or whatever else, Steve Gillen and the Prison Officers Association have been calling for this for some time. And there's a
years,
reason.
He says.
Yeah, well, quite. It doesn't surprise me. I think There is a reason also why you're struggling to recruit people to go and work in these prisons. Are you going to put your life on the line essentially every day for £26,000 a year? You're not. Which is
What, is that the average salary?
The average salary.
Is it?
The average salary, if you're in a G4S prison, it'd be slightly more under the government, but you're looking between 26 and 30 grand a year as a prison officer. There isn't enough of them. You are asking for riots all the time. Funnily enough, not quite as professional reasons as Alex, I had a friend in HMP Franklin till only a few weeks ago. He's been moved to a prison in Manchester now. Chaos in there. Chaos. There will be a death at some point, and there will continue to be deaths in our prisons unless the government becomes involved, reforms the prisons, the age-old estate that people are living in, and we cannot build our way out of this situation. The brand new prison that's just been built, HMP Millsyke, I think it's called, I might have got the pronunciation wrong, £500 million for 1,500 places. That is just not cost-effective whatsoever.
Lisa, one of my viewers, says, why aren't we sending people from here to the mega prisons in El Salvador? That would be a lot cheaper and it'd be a massive deterrent. What do you say to Lisa?
We should build more wings on existing prison sites. There are several prisons which have areas, I think, although I know people are looking at it, that we should expand our prisons. And we shouldn't be afraid of people going to a cell 3 to a cell as time requires. But my point was that we should have harsher sentences and therefore shorter sentences. We also should issue our prison officers with stab vests, tasers and more money.
Yeah, but you see, I'm with you on stab vests, but about tasers, what if the criminal actually manages to get the taser? And then that would be an even worse situation, wouldn't it? Anyway, Lisa, I thought your idea was a good one. Me and you could be friends. Look, Maria says prisons are nothing but a joke and a massive smack in the face for victims that prioritise the criminals and their well-being. Anyway, that's all I've got time for. Thanks, gents. Thanks to you at home. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Low pressure really dominating an unsettled outlook. Outbreaks of heavy rain over the next few days, some strong winds at times too. And those strong winds developing as we go through this evening and overnight as this area of low pressure moves in from the south, bringing some heavy rain to western parts in particular as well. Parts of Wales, the West Country, have a yellow warning from the Met Office out through the night into Wednesday morning. The heavy rain then transferring into parts of Northern Ireland during the early hours. Elsewhere, generally quite cloudy with outbreaks of rain. Temperatures overnight generally holding up around 6 or 7 degrees due to the cloud. The winds picking up too, gales developing through the Irish Sea along southern coasts, and these strong winds spreading inland as we go through the day. Let's look at the details for Wednesday morning, and actually across northern Scotland it's a bright start for some of us, some sunny spells here, but the rest of Scotland cloudy, some patchy rain, heavy rain across Northern Ireland. There could be some localised flooding issues first thing here. The rest of England generally cloudy, and that heavy rain extending into western parts of England and Wales as well. Just some brighter skies starting to come into southern counties first thing Wednesday morning, and this sunshine slowly spreads a little further north through the day as the area of low pressure just tends to very slowly push its way northwards. So some parts of Wales, northern England, Northern Ireland, southern Scotland will have a wet day, some strong winds too, and it will feel quite cold. Temperatures struggling to get into the double figures here. Breezy across the rest of England and Wales, but sunny spells developing and temperatures around 17 Celsius. For Thursday, the remnants of that low pressure start pulling away and it becomes a brighter day for most with sunny spells, scattered showers. Some of the showers can be heavy at times, but some places will avoid these and stay dry all day, and temperatures around the mid-teens. It's